Hello and welcome to the second video in the improvisation series. In this video we're going to look at how to develop our call response ideas, and also we'll look at where we actually get those ideas from, because remember in the last video I said nothing comes from nothing, and I actually presented you with a call idea, but you might be asking, hey, where did George get that idea from? So I'll show you where and how we can get ideas to begin with while we're playing with the band. But first of all, we'll have a look at developing call response, and I'm going to start with something very similar to what we did in the previous video, with the same sort of call idea, with the same sort of track, a slow, bluesy, jazzy track, and I'll show you how you can develop those call response ideas so that you can start to create longer solos, not just 2-bar phrases. So I'll bring up the band in a box track. We'll have another brief listen to it so we get acquainted with the groove and the tempo and so on. Now you may notice here, this time I've got the bass in the track, so in case you're a non-bass player, you can already start to play along with this track. As a matter of fact, later on I'll just let it run for a little while so you can use this track to, to improvise on. So the idea, the call idea was ta 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 ta, and then the next bar was free. So essentially looking at 2-bar phrases. Here we go again. Ta 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 ta, and then a response to ta and ta and ta ta ta. Ta 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 ta, ta 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 ta, and you can use any phrasing you want. You can do doo-wops and shanas and whatever. So do ba do be, ga do ba a boo ba, any sounds that you want. So it's important for you to be able to experiment and just find what works vocally for you to begin with. Okay, I'm just going to stop that track and start it again. This time I'll show you some ideas to get longer call response phrases happening, eventually developing into a solo. So here we go again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta 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 ta, ta 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 da, ta 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 ta, ta ta da, ta 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 ta, ta 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 da da, ta 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 ta, ta ta ta, ta ta ta, ta 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 ta, ta ta ta, ta 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 ta, ta 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 ta, ta 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 da. So if you followed along with that, and I recommend you go back and have a listen again, because you probably can't sort of pick up everything on the first go, you would have realized that after a little while I actually used a response phrase as my new call phrase. So instead of going ta 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 ta, I would do something like ta 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 ta, and then use that as my A phrase. Let's call it A and B, or bars A and B, or bars 1 and 2. So in the first bar, I then sort of reverse the idea of call response, and then I use one of the responses as my new call phrase, and then I gradually integrated the previous call phrase, and developed that. So you'll see that there was some kind of development going on there, and then if you do that just in small increments, you will go further and further into your solos, and you might have seen that I expanded it into more eighth notes, ta 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 ta. So you've got this longer 2-bar phrase, and eventually you can then go into 4-bar phrases and so on. So that's pretty important to sort of develop it. As I mentioned before, keep it simple to begin with. If you find yourself stumbling, well then just go back and simplify it more. Okay, so the reason I actually use this idea of ta 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 is quite interesting, because in jazz you usually end a phrase, especially a shorter phrase, on an upbeat. So ta 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 ta, ta, da. So both of those one bar phrases actually ended on an upbeat, and that gives it a certain forward motion swing feel. Now you could see through that example that I just gave you, by combining a couple of simple call phrases with response phrases, then reversing the idea, which I did in the 9th bar, I could easily, or did easily, create a 16-bar solo. So that's how easy it can be. So what I'd like you to do is pretty much the same thing. What I'll do now is I'll just let the track run for you for 16 bars, and then I'll show you how we can develop the call response idea even further. So first of all, here's just 16 bars for you to play along with. And remember, you don't have to play along at all in this session. You can hum along, that's more important. The vocalization is important. Alrighty, so that was 16 bars. Now I'm going to show you how you can go further. Let's say, for example, we run out of ideas, so we've got to actually, or it becomes boring. That can easily happen too. So what we need to do is simply stop, don't play, don't hum for a few seconds, pick up something else, and then start with a new idea. Okay, so I'll show you how we can now go beyond 16 bars. I'll bring up exactly the same track again and give you some ideas there. I'm going to start with a different call phrase now too, so it doesn't get too boring for all of us. Okay, here we go. 2, 3, 4. Ta 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 da da ta tu da. Ta 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 da da ta ta ta. New call. Ta 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 da da ba da 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 ta 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 da da ta 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 da da ta 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 da da ta 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 da 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 1, 2 da da da. Lots of space here. Da 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 da. Ta 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 ta. Back to the first idea. Ta 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 da 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 da. Ta ta. 2 ta 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 da da ta da 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 da. Okay, so that was just showing you how you can virtually stop for a few beats, have a quick think about what you can do to continue. And what I did there is I then started after beat 2 of the bar. So prior to that, I was always starting on the first beat of the bar with my call phrase. But then I thought, okay, let's just give it some space and start well and truly into the bar, and left a lot more space, and then gradually added later on, towards the end of that improvised vocal solo. So you can see how you can develop things by sort of doing less and then doing more, coming back again. Okay, now as mentioned before, I'm going to show you with a completely different style, because I don't want to get you to get locked down into this one thing and think, oh, it only works for this. I want to show you how I can use this almost universally. So I'll show you with a different style how we can actually just get ideas. So we'll have a listen to it, a completely different band in a box track. I'll bring up something new, and I'll show you how we can get our call idea, because that's important. Remember, we've got to get that first idea happening first so we can develop and expand on that. So I'm going to bring up this other band in a box track, see what I can find here. Okay, let's have a listen to this. Two, three, four. Okay, the first thing I'm hearing there is the ta through the guitar, and it pretty much does that consistently. So if we liked, we could actually develop our first call phrase off that. So see what I mean? So I've picked up an idea from something that I've heard in the band that I might be playing with at the time. And another thing I hear there is, if you have a listen to the drums, they've got 16th notes. So if you want to get into more of a 16th note groove, I'll just play it again so you can have a listen to that. 2, 3, 4. So you see there with the snare drum, you've got that tung, tung, ticka, ticka, tung, tung, tung. Okay, so that's another idea that we could use for our call or our response. So for example, I could use both ideas for the call and response. I could go, as you can see, I'm workshopping this now. I could go tung, tung, ticka, tung, tung, ticka, ticka, tung, 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 ticka, tung, tung. Takata takata tankata tam takata 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 tam. So see, on the last two bars I reverse it. I use the 16th note as the 16th notes as the call idea, and then use my original call idea as the response. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that this idea of vocalization works with any style. Okay, so that was a rocky style with 8th notes and a couple of different chords in this case. That was an A minor and a D minor. Okay, so we can use the same idea of vocalization with any style of music, and if we get a fair idea of what it sounds like, if we can get into the groove and stay within the form of the chords and the song in general, if we can vocalize a solo, then the next step is not that hard actually, because knowing what to do is about 80% of the work. Actually doing it physically on your instrument, whatever it might be, that's much less work than actually getting the original or the initial vocalization happening. Okay, so in the next video, what I'll do there is I'll actually show you how you can start to apply these ideas to your instrument. In the meantime, practice your vocalization, just practice. Okay, bye for now.